The new atheism, in case you don't know specifically about this, is kind of stands out separate from atheism in that they aren't just saying we shouldn't believe. They're saying we need to rid the world of religion. We need to actually go on the offensive and start attacking. And these 5 authors and books are kind of what started this trend. I like the image of the Coke there. And there's actually a new part on that. You can see it a little way at the top. And these books are back there if you want to take a look at them to see what you want. But and I actually could go through them. Each one of them is fairly good. Sam Harris's, I think, is probably the best. He has one that followed up after this called A Letter to a Christian Nation, which is a good book and was a response to the people that objected to the end of faith. I wish he wouldn't have titled it that way. He in his title, called us a Christian nation. And I think it was a mistake to say, you are a Christian nation, here I am arguing against it. But these 5 have been incredibly vocal about not just not believing in religion, not just being our own selves, but actually getting out there and fighting against it and getting it to the point that we no longer have religion. And then one more pendulum. So these 5 come out with this. There's a whole set of people that come out with kind of the practical side of atheism, right? This is kind of where I'm at. I tend to believe in promoting the practical side of atheism, and I actually think there are some things within religion that we need to account for that are valuable. And these set of books are more about that side. They're very practical. They're how do you raise children? How do you lead a good, practical, moral life, ethical life without religion? And the last one's more of a story of one person's kind of travels through being incredibly religious to atheists, and there's a lot of those out there as well. And then there's things like the American Humanist Association Celebrant Program, right? So, and I'm a humanist celebrant with them, and so I go out and do weddings probably 10 to 12 times a year, and they're very traditional-looking weddings. They just don't mention God. 15 years ago, you couldn't do this. You had to go to a justice of the peace, or you had to find a preacher that was a little bit lenient and would maybe do it, and they would usually slip in some references to God anyway. Now they can have a totally atheistic, humanistic wedding that is very traditional, and I've done probably 50 of them at this point. And there are funerals and baby namings and the whole bit, right? Which is great. So the last one, as the question of whether or not we really are a Christian nation. Certainly, the nation was not founded as one. States may have been, but the nation was not, which was really helped out a great deal. And certainly the Supreme Court and the laws have made it clear that that's not what we are. The morality ones, I think, self-evident to us, certainly isn't to the Christians, but I'm not sure it's too relevant here. The social one's the only one that's really difficult to answer. And I think the answer is probably yes, we're mostly a Christian nation, but we still hold freedom and the rights of the individual above Christianity, which is saving us so far. And we need our own call to action in some sense, and we got that somewhat with Bush, but we can't lighten up too much. I think it's put upon groups like this to make sure that we get out there and make sure that we don't become a Christian nation, because the danger is still there. We certainly could go that route. There are certainly people fighting for it. Since the World War II and the communists and atheists, and there's a lot of people that fight for this. There are organizations that are very well funded whose sole job is to promote this being a Christian nation. And our only real battle against it is the fact that this nation thinks freedom and individual rights are more important.